I'm Nick Pettit.
I'm Jason Seifer.
And you're watching the Treehouse Show, your weekly dose of internets where we talk about all things web design, web development, and more.
In this episode, we'll be talking about working with dates and times in JavaScript, the iPhone 5 website teardown, and a new segment called Web Trends.
Let's check it out.
So, Nick, how often do you work with dates and times in JavaScript?
All the time, really.
Well, I've got great news for you. There is a library called Moment.js. Now, this is not a brand new library, but Moment.js is a library that lets you format, display, and manipulate JavaScript dates and times. It's got a great API for doing all of the above things. Something that can be kind of cumbersome when you're dealing with JavaScript dates and times is formatting. This is going to give you a bunch of different formatting codes to work with the dates and times. There's also a plugin for using strftime with Moment.js. Something else that can be a little bit weird when you're working with JavaScript dates and times is manipulating them, adding time, subtracting time, and all sorts of things like that. Moment.js provides a really great library that's cross-platform and helps ease the pain when working with dates and times in different browsers. So you can check that out at momentjs.com.
That's pretty cool, Jason. I'm glad we took a moment to talk about that. That was too easy.
Me too.
I'm sorry.
No, that was good. I like that.
All right.
I really like the library, though.
Yeah, it's very cool. Next up.
It's a joy to use.
Next up is jQuery Joyride. And so let's say that you're working on an application and you want to create this really cool onboarding experience where people can just go to the app and click through and take a tour and see each part of the application or each part of the web page that you're presenting. That's pretty difficult to do, but that's exactly what jQuery Joyride does. It makes it really easy to create these little pop-up windows here, and you can go ahead and have a button that the user can click on, and as you click through, it will take you to different parts of the web page and highlight them. So pretty nifty, and again, this is something that's kind of difficult to do on your own if you're just coding it up without any kind of plugins or help. So I'm really happy that this plugin exists.
Yeah, the onboarding process to a web app is very, very important because it's the first thing that your users are going to see when they go to your website. This is also something called the blank slate experience. So you kind of want to give them a little push in the right direction, maybe even have some fake data there the first time they enter a web application.
Just so they can get an idea of what kind of data they should be putting in.
And also, let's face it, who wouldn't want to use a plugin called Joyride?
Sounds amazing.
I know. It's like, let's steal a car and just make this work.
Woo!
Next up, we have something called Emmet Sublime. Emmet Sublime is a plugin for Sublime Text to do Emmet coding. You may have heard of this before as Zen coding. Are you familiar with Zen coding, Nick?
Yeah, that's where I sit on a rock with a rake and I kind of drag it around in the sand and think about function calls, and I do that all the time.
Yeah, so now you've got this rock right in Sublime Text. No, Zen coding is something a little different. It gives you a certain syntax when writing HTML and CSS to make writing these a lot quicker in your browser. So let's say you wanted to write an h1 tag followed by a div and then maybe a paragraph. You would say h1 greater than sign div greater than sign p, and if you type all that in and then press the tab key, this will format that all for you right in Sublime Text, adding in the tags and positioning the cursor right through there so you can enter the content and drag it all through, enter what you need. It's very, very difficult to explain, so check out the GitHub project page at github.com/surgesh/emmet-sublime and install it in Sublime, read the tutorial, good to go.
I am ready to do Zen coding.
Feel a lot better and more at peace with yourself.
It's important. So next up, USA Today has recently gone through a pretty cool redesign, which you can check out at beta.usatoday.com. We're going to take a look at it in a new segment we call Web Trends. As iPhone and iPad apps continue to grow in popularity, everyone's kind of expecting these really smooth and fluid experiences where the page doesn't refresh and you just move from one piece of content to the next. That's exactly what USA Today has done with their recent redesign. You can go ahead and scroll up and down the page, as you might expect, and you can go ahead and swipe from one section of news to another. And here, for example, in their weather interface, they have all sorts of really cool buttons like you might expect to find in a more native application experience. Another cool feature that they have is their photo gallery here. When you go ahead and click on the photo up at the top, you can just flip through these amazing full screen photos that just take up the entire browser window. And I assume that they're probably using some CSS3 animations to get that cool flipping effect across the entire screen.
It's really amazing how far that a newspaper website has been able to come, for the web. Traditionally, I hate to say this, newspapers don't have the best design.
It's true.
But the interaction and the UI is absolutely fantastic on this. I'd like to hear more, maybe some blog posts from them to see what they're doing on the back end to make this work.
It's really taken a consumption experience or a static experience and turned it into something that's a lot more engaging and interactive and gets people to really involve themselves with the content.
It makes me feel like we're actually living in the year 2012.
That's amazing, actually.
Yeah, so good job, USA Today. If you want to check that out, it's at beta.usatoday.com.
Check it out.
Next up, I'm sure everybody has heard of the iPhone 5 by now, but we're going to be talking about some interesting things that we did. There's a breakdown of how Apple does the iPhone 5 website. They have some really interesting techniques to make their videos work in a cross-browser and standards-compliant sort of way. They're using JPEGs, JSON, and the canvas element to simulate video.
So wait a second, we have animated JPEGs now?
Yeah, it's kind of strange. They're actually using JPEGs at a really high quality, smushed down into really specific parts, basically keyframes. Let me see if I can pull up the Apple website here so that you can see what this is talking about. They did this a certain way on the old Retina MacBook Pro site. And what that was, see that right there? That's just a series of JPEGs to open the Retina MacBook Pro on the Retina MacBook Pro page.
So they actually have a picture for each individual frame of that MacBook opening.
Yes.
Which probably doesn't compress very well at all.
No. So that little animation that you saw was 5 megs, which,
wow.
Yeah, that can be kind of rough depending on your bandwidth situation. Now, the new one that they have for the iPhone 5, and let me see if I can pull this up here, apple.com/iPhone. If you scroll down on the design page, there's a little slide to unlock screen. And that animation takes only one megabyte, and we have it right here. The way this works is that they're actually compressing, here's one keyframe, first one, and all of the different parts that are animated are in a second keyframe, and the third one, and then finally the last frame is a different frame as well. This is all done kind of strange, base64 encoded, and using Canvas with a little bit of JavaScript. There's a lot more going on this page. We'll have it in the show notes that you can find on our YouTube channel. Definitely read this if you're interested to see how Apple did it.
So they're basically taking this image and just taking the diffs rather than the previous example we saw where they have each individual frame.
Right.
So that compresses a lot better. I think that one was actually around 1 megabyte.
Correct.
Rather than 5. So pretty interesting technique rather than using, say, HTML5 video, which is still pretty good, but you'd probably get some MPEG compression artifacts there, whereas with this technique, it looks really crisp and clean.
Exactly.
Very cool stuff.
Go Apple.
Well done. All right, next up is Fresco, and it's basically just another Lightbox, but...
So why are we talking about it?
It's a really good one. I know there's a million different Lightbox plugins. That's basically where you click on an image and a sort of faux window comes up in the browser that shows you a larger version of that image. And oftentimes they'll have a gallery you can kind of flip through in that Lightbox mode. But this Lightbox plugin is actually pretty good, and it's available at frescojs.com. The thing that makes it so cool is that it's responsive, It's really beautifully done, and it's also ready for Retina displays. So if you go ahead and click on an image, you can go ahead and cycle through a gallery here. They have thumbnail previews down at the bottom, and if you use your keyboard, you can go ahead and cycle through the images that way as well. Another nice thing that they're doing is supporting videos. So you can go ahead and drop in, say, a YouTube or Vimeo video. And they also have this nice zoom feature where you can go ahead and zoom in on a particular image and kind of pan around and look at it in more detail.
So the big selling point, I'm guessing, is that it's responsive, the responsive take on all the different Lightbox plugins.
And it's also Retina ready, which is kind of the big craze and things that we've been talking about in previous episodes. So in other words, it is just another Lightbox plugin, but it's really well done and has all of the modern features that you might expect.
It's awesome.
Yep.
Next up, there are 7 HTML5 features that you may not know about.
Whoa.
I know. We're going to talk about all 7 of them and read the blog post right now.
Let's do it.
No, we're not actually going to talk about all of them. I'm just going to pick out a couple of them to tell you about. Something that I think is pretty awesome is the HTML5 autofocus attribute. So when you land on a web page, you can specify that a certain input has autofocus. This means when you go there, if there's a text box, maybe a search field, your character, that will be immediately focused when you go to the page. Users don't have to click in there.
So that's different than how it used to be done, where you would drop in some JavaScript
and
have to do it that way. This is now built into HTML5.
Yes.
It's pretty cool.
And the other thing that I'm liking is the HTML5 spell check attribute. You can specify that content divs or inputs don't need to have spell check enabled.
I'm going to be honest, this is going to save me a lot of embarrassment.
Yes, me too. And yeah, I'm proud of that.
Cool.
So you can find more on that in the show notes.
Very cool stuff. Next up is CSS Values, available at cssvalues.com. And basically, this is just a big input box where you can go ahead and type in a CSS property. So I'm going to go ahead and type in, say, background. And when you type that in, it will go ahead and bring up that CSS property and show you all of the values that you can go ahead and put in there. And that's pretty cool because, especially with CSS3 properties, I oftentimes forget which values I can put in, what order they should go in, and so this is just a really handy reference where you can type in that CSS property and figure out if you're doing it correctly. They also link directly to W3C info, the Mozilla Developer Network info, and you can go ahead and get a permalink to that specific property on CSS Values should you want to send it to a friend.
Yeah, or post it on your Facebook timeline.
Exactly.
I know. Check out this background property, everybody.
Pretty cool.
So I think that's about a good place to wrap up for the day.
Definitely. Jason, what did we learn today?
Today, we learned that newspaper websites can be awesome, and HTML5 has some interesting features that we might not know about.
Cool stuff.
If you want to catch me on Twitter, I'm at jseifer.
I'm at NickRP.
Thanks so much for tuning in. For more show notes or more information on anything that we talked about today, check out our YouTube channel at youtube.com/GoTreehouse.
And this show is, of course, brought to you by Treehouse, the best way to learn web design, web development, how to start a business, iPhone and Android apps, and more. You can check us out at teamtreehouse.com. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.